What's up, y'all? Hello, hello, and hello. I wanted to come on today just to share something. I have really been needing to spend an X amount of time, with God, just over the course of the last couple of weeks. Just things have been hectic, like out of my control. And so, but in a good way. I wanted to share a message talking about our obsession with control. And while some of us use our choice, our right to choose something, while we choose that as a crutch, we often think that because God forgives us, because He gave His only Son to die for us for those sins, that it's okay to remain in those sins and to remain making bad choices. I always tell my children all the time, it's something I tell them all the time, and I tell them all the time because not only do I want it to really stick, but I tell them this all the time so they can be very conscious of the things that they're doing. And I always tell them that one time is a mistake, and anytime after that, it becomes a decision. And so when they do something and they do it again, I'll be like, it was not a mistake because you already done that one time. Now, why I give them grace for making mistakes and bumping their heads, they have to understand and fully understand that because you choose to do it again, it's no longer a mistake. You have to know that there is a consequence for those decisions that you continue to make, knowing what happened the very first time. And so accountability is very important in this, and you must be accountable in all situations, knowing the wrong and the parts that you have held in the situation, and also being able to be accountable for how you handle it, how you decide to go about that thing, how you decide to let that thing weigh on you, or to determine how you make your next move. And so, like I said, we must be responsible in the decisions that we make, even if they are momentarily. Even if something happens in the moment, we have to be cognizant of, okay, if I do this, then this could actually catapult and turn into something even worse than what it already is. So we have to be very mindful. And a lot of times we don't think before we react. We just react. It's a natural thing for us to do, but we have to be careful on how we react. And like I said, we have to think about how we choose to go on past situations that happen to us and move past things that people have done to us. We have to be very careful of that. Like I said before, time and time again, while forgiveness is something that is mandatory for us to do, something that God definitely commands us to do, He instructs us to do that, He expects us to do that. While forgiveness is God's ultimate command, reconciliation is not. And so because we forgive someone, we do not have to continue to indulge in them or the things that they do. And some things happened, a while back, and I was like, the audacity, because people really have the audacity to feel as if you owe them something when they don't get a response out of you. And so just anyway, when God brings you out of something, stay out. And like I said, while the part of me that forgives, say, okay, well, I forgive you, we can move past that, cool. That doesn't open that door back up for reconciliation, for you to ever have access to me again in that way. And that's what people fail to understand. So, you may have somebody that you haven't talked to or whatever, then, bam, here they come out the blue. And then because they feel like now they got in touch with you, that now they are owed a catch-up on the relationship. But you don't have to, is what I'm saying. I allowed a lot of things to go on in my life because I had an obsession with control. And it was because in moments I reacted instead of thinking about things that I've done. We make choices that vandalizes our peace, and it's not because the Holy Spirit isn't present, or not because God is not keeping His word to us, but it's just simply, in addition to the obedience, our peace of mind is for us to remember that God's will always be better than our plans, and especially when our plans fail. It's crazy because I used to battle a lot with not being able to control the outcome of things. And when people used to wrong me, I would hate the fact that I couldn't retaliate because I knew God was continuously, reminding me that He would take care of it, right? Because ultimately I wanted my lick back. I wanted you to feel the consequences of playing with me, right? And so ultimately, while I wanted my lick back, I had to remember and hold on to what God said, in those times, because it was hard. It was uncomfortable, going through that, watching somebody that hurt you, actually move on about their life and about their way like it wasn't anything. But that's uncomfortable to deal in. And when I was younger, I was molested for some time, right? So I was stripped away of my control and of my innocence. And this was early on. So over the course of my life, you know, as when I got older, when I could control the when, the how, and or what could happen to me, I spiraled out of control because I felt like, you know, I was losing it. You know, I felt like I was losing. I couldn't get a grip on the very thing that I needed. And in that, I was labeled crazy. I was labeled, you know, a narcissist, all because I had been wounded. And so God allows things to happen in our lives so we can learn to heal and lose control of it. And so, like I said, for a long time, I struggled with control because I was stripped of that at an early age. And I was parented by wounded souls, and this is both my mother and my father on both parts. And when I chose to love hard, it was because it was hard for me being loved. Not that my mom didn't love me, not that my dad didn't love me, not that they didn't show me love. There was something that I needed that they couldn't give me because they didn't have it. And what God brought me to realize later on, you know, while He's healing me and while I'm going through my recovery season, He had to get me to realize that my parents did the best that they could with what they could. You know, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for a mother who was there. I'm grateful for a father who was there, even if they weren't there completely in the ways that I needed them. You know, I understood it, you know, after God was talking to me about, you know, my parents couldn't give me what I needed because they didn't have it. And so when I loosed myself of that thought, when I loosed myself of that control, because that thought controlled me for a long time, you know, thinking that I just wasn't getting what I needed from them because they just didn't want to give it to me. It was because they didn't have it to give. And that's what happens to a lot of us. So we relive, you know, the traumas and stuff from our parents. And I had excellent parents, great parents. You know, they had their own set of flaws. They're human. You know, we all do. And they had their things going on in their lives that they were trying to deal with. And the unhealed versions of them. And they were trying to raise us. So you can't hold someone accountable who is not capable at that time in your life to give you those things that you're requiring. So that doesn't make them a bad person. That doesn't make them, you know, someone that you shouldn't ever be around or something. That just means that's just not their time. That's not y'all season to connect or to be in sync with each other because it's something that they need, that you're going to need, that they don't have. And so when y'all come together as however you come, it's going to be something missing. There's going to be a void there because what's needed can't be given. You understand? And so, like I said, my obsession with control became very intense as I grew into an adult because now here I am, this grown person with my own thoughts, my own mind. I'm very strong-minded. I'm very level-headed, and people always love that about me. They always tell me they love that about me, you know, how strong-headed I am, but I didn't always feel that way. And while, like I said, I had this obsession with control, it was really telling God, like, okay, God, I see you wanting to take over this, but I think my ways right now will be better than yours. You know, that's kind of what I was telling God when I decided to say, okay, I'm going to handle this because I think this needs to be dealt with, instead of saying, okay, Lord, you take control. You loose me of the control that I have of any situation that should be given to you. And that's what we have to learn to ask God every day. Loose us of the situations and the problems and the weights of the things that we really can't control. Lord, loose us of those things so we can move forward and, you know, operate and do the great things that you called us to do. When we surrender, when you surrender, it really means to fully give God everything that you have, the weights of it, the thoughts of it, you know, the pressures of it, the fears of it. Just give it completely to God and let Him guide you through that. If you're in a close connection with God, you have a relationship with God, when you're actually going through things, God will give you the next step. He will. Long as you're in sync with Him, long as you're still enough and close enough to hear Him, you'll feel and you'll see God move in your life. When we have been married to control, you know, for so long, surrendering it feels like a divorce, and it is uncomfortable because, like I said, you really gonna want your lick back for a lot of stuff that happens, and you can't do that because you got to obey what God done said to you, you know. And so that's kind of a struggle sometimes, but losing that control, we have to learn to lose that control. So give it all to God. All that you have, give it to God. All of it. You know, take your hands off of it. God taught me a lesson a long time ago. Take your hands off of it. And so every time I get ready to make a decision or a choice or do something, I always remember that moment when God had to tap me on my hands and He literally said, get your hands off of it. I literally felt God, get your hands off of it. And so every time I am getting ready to make a decision or a choice or to do something foolish, you know, I'm always reminded by that tap. You know, the Holy Spirit always give me that tap as a nudge and to leave it alone and give it to God. And so that has been a blessing in my life. And so I'm telling you right now today, whatever you have been holding on to, let it go. Give it to God. As easy as that may sound, it is very challenging. I'm not going to front. It's challenging. It's going to be times when you will feel like, no, I'm about to handle this because this is what we handle. But you got to remember what you're doing now is going to reap a consequence for later. So be mindful of the things you do as a retaliation for whatever happened to you. Be very mindful of that, because things will come back around full circle. And sometimes it's not always nice to get tapped back, by the things that we have done, that we think we thought we walked away from. Because sometimes it doesn't take the same moment or a couple of days or a couple of weeks for us to feel the wrath of that thing. It could take years. It could take a long time, but it will come back full circle. So be mindful of the things that you're doing, and to be able to move in the joy and the peace and the gladness and the goodness, of the storm. We'll need that experience to understand everything that's going to happen. That's why I tell people all the time, the things that we go through are never not for anything. We go through the things that we do, through the pain, through the traumas, through everything, for the experience, which is the blueprint. And that blueprint is what's going to be necessary for not only to carry us, but to help us to carry other people in their times of need. And so I just thank God every day, because God trusted me to be fired at, so that others can see what happens when the enemy shoots at me, and to walk out of things that were meant to harm me and hurt me. I give God all the glory and the honor and the praise for that, because it wasn't me that caused me to walk out of the things. And looking back at a lot of things that happened to me now, when I was thinking it was me in the situation, like, yeah, I'm really handling this and this. When I look back at that thing, I'm like, God, you was really protecting me, because, yeah, you was protecting me from some things that I couldn't see. That's what he does for us. He protects us from the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown. And so, like I said, I want you to just carry this word into your next week, to the next month, to the next year. Carry this word and learn to loose your control. Loose your obsession with control. Take your hands off of whatever that you have it on, no matter what the person or the situation is. Stay closely connected with God. Always seek him in everything. And just be still enough to hear him when he speaks to you about how to move into your next. I love y'all, and I'll talk to y'all later.